Imagine watching a casual live stream, and then, in a matter of seconds, the atmosphere transforms into something unforgettable, not because of some contrived drama, but because of a real, unrepeatable moment. The camera shakes slightly, people's breathing quickens, and in the midst of it all, one small incident triggers an unexpected chain reaction. That's what happened yesterday afternoon, when a simple live stream turned into a story that fans will talk about for a long time. That afternoon, the atmosphere in a public park in Beijing was warm and lively. The sky wasn't particularly sunny, but comfortable enough for outdoor activities. Among the trees and jogging paths, he stood in simple workout clothes, holding his phone, and greeted his millions of viewers with that familiar, easy smile. He opened the stream in his signature style, nothing overdone, no fuss. Just a light greeting, a few jokes, and an invitation to enjoy a fitness session together. The fans in the area slowly began to gather, keeping their distance, but clearly enthusiastic. At first, everything went according to plan. He demonstrated warm-up moves, explained the importance of consistency in maintaining a fit body, and answered a few questions from viewers who flooded the comments section. The energy felt light, like friends sharing a routine, not a superstar. However, as time went on, the crowds gathered at the venue grew. Some seemed to want more than just to watch from afar. Some began to move closer, trying to get the best possible view. In the midst of this light practice session, a small moment occurred, so fleeting that it was barely noticed by many watching on screen. One fan, perhaps overly excited, stepped closer than the others. He was smiling as usual, trying to stay focused on the broadcast. But the fan seemed unable to contain his emotions. With slightly trembling hands, he reached out, as if to confirm that this was real. In a split second, physical contact occurred. Their hands touched. It wasn't anything dramatic, just a brief touch, but enough to trigger a reaction far greater than expected. The fan immediately froze. His face changed, his breathing became unsteady. People around him began to realize something was wrong. The cameras were still rolling, and millions of people were watching everything live. He himself looked a little surprised, but he remained calm. He tried to calm the situation in a gentle voice, asking everyone to step back and give him space. But the situation had already changed. The fan who had touched his hand suddenly lost his balance. His body went limp, and before anyone could react quickly, he collapsed on the spot. The relaxed atmosphere turned tense in a matter of seconds. The people around him immediately panicked. Some tried to help, while others backed away, unsure what to do. The broadcast was still ongoing, revealing a side of him that had never been planned. He immediately stopped his training and approached, checking on the fan. His face showed genuine concern, not an expression put on for the camera, but the spontaneous reaction of someone who truly cared. The team on site moved quickly. Water was brought in, a room was opened, and someone tried to ensure the fan had fresh air. In a few minutes that felt like an eternity, the situation was brought under control. Meanwhile, online viewers began to speculate. Comments poured in, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Some were worried, some shocked, and still others couldn't believe that a simple moment could change so drastically. After a few moments, the fan began to regain consciousness. Those around him breathed a sigh of relief. He appeared calmer, though clearly still shaken by the events that had just occurred. He took a moment before turning back to the camera. In a more serious tone, he urged everyone to maintain social distancing and prioritize safety. His tone was gentle yet firm, showing that he truly understood the gravity of the situation. What was initially intended as a casual broadcast turned into a reminder of the fine line between admiration and self-control. He wasn't blaming anyone, but it was clear that the moment left a lasting impression. Interestingly, amidst all this, a small detail didn't escape the attention of some fans. That brief touch became a topic of conversation, sparking a variety of emotional reactions from those who felt a personal connection. Some even began comparing the moment to other interactions, creating a narrative that went beyond the fleeting moment in the park. The fandom often magnifies small things into something much larger. But in the end, what remained of the event wasn't sensationalism or speculation, but rather one simple truth. the powerful emotions that can arise from the connection between a public figure and their fan. The broadcast may have begun as a simple fitness session, but it ended as a true story about the enthusiasm, limits, and impact of an unexpected moment, a story that will live on, not because it was planned, but because of its authenticity. Shortly after the situation was brought under control, the park became much quieter than before. The previously enthusiastic crowd now chose to maintain a more disciplined distance, as if realizing that the moment they were witnessing was more than just entertainment. He stood before the camera again, taking a slow breath before resuming the broadcast. This time, his smile was still there, but it was softer and more thoughtful. He tried to restore a light atmosphere, though there was clearly a shift in emotions that couldn't be ignored. In a calm voice, he began to talk about the importance of maintaining one's health, not just physically but also emotionally. Without mentioning the incident directly, he inserted a message about how excessive excitement also needs to be controlled. The audience, both in person and on screen, seemed more focused than before. There were no more small crowds or excessive whispers. All eyes were on him, listening to every word in a way that was different from the beginning of the broadcast. Meanwhile, the fan who had fainted earlier had now sat up with the help of several people around him. His face was still pale, but he appeared fully conscious. He occasionally glanced at the camera, perhaps still trying to process what he had just experienced. Several people on set began to help organize the crowd more orderly, creating enough space for the broadcast to proceed without interruption. Despite the lack of formal instructions, everyone seemed to work together naturally. He then continued the session with lighter movements, almost like a cool down rather than a main workout. Each movement was performed at a slower tempo, as if adapting to the now more reflective atmosphere. The broadcast ultimately ended not with explosive energy, but with unexpected calm. He thanked the camera, waved, and hung up in a simple manner, but it left a far deeper impression than initially intended. After the broadcast finally ended, many lingered on the set, as if not yet ready to leave the place where the unexpected moment had occurred. Small conversations began to emerge, no longer about training or fitness, but about what they had just witnessed with their own eyes. Several fans shared stories, trying to piece together the events that had unfolded moment by moment. Some still looked emotional, some tried to calm themselves, and still others remained silent, lost in their own thoughts. Online, snippets of the broadcast began to spread rapidly. Reactions came from all directions, demonstrating how one brief moment could create a massive ripple in a short time. Meanwhile, he had left the set under tighter security than usual. His steps remained calm, but he clearly carried a burden on his mind, not because of any wrongdoing, but because of the increasingly real responsibility. And in the end, that day would no longer be remembered as just another fitness broadcast in the park, but as a reminder that behind every simple interaction, there is always the potential for a story far bigger than anyone could have imagined.